Hi Vikrant, good morning. You're all welcome to Start English IELTS Preparation. This is your own YouTube channel IELTS Doctor. Very good morning, Simran. Guys, let's come live fast. So today in this YouTube class, I'd make you understand how to write pie chart for IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. So I'll describe you each type and how to write this chart. So I'll explain you each and everything. Dear all, Techno Institute, very good morning, dear. So guys, now let's begin with the writing task 1. So in this video, I'll be talking about the pie chart, so that how you need to describe pie chart. I'll explain you everything. So I welcome you, all of you. Now let's see how to describe pie chart, right, for IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. So as you know, writing type, that is the pie chart. So in this writing task 1 tutorial, you will learn different ways to describe a pie chart for IELTS. We will talk about the best language to use and teach you how to structure your writing task to get the best results from your IELTS academic writing exam. So I'll be discussing this point, and further I'll be explaining you how to structure your writing task for writing academic task 1 for pie chart specially. And to help your with your IELTS preparation, we will give you step by step guide on how to structure your pie chart description to receive great results on your writing task 1 exam. So now let's see, first of all, how to structure your writing task for IELTS academic writing task 1. So, what is the first step? The first step is prepare. Guys, it is very important before you start to write any task. It is necessary for you to prepare it first. So, what you exactly need to do? Look at the biggest and smallest section. Get the biggest and the smallest section of your pie chart and what they represent and what is the percentage. So this is the first step that you need to make. Next is a big make a quick analysis, note down the times, dates and measurements. So it is necessary for you to make a quick analysis, so you need to note down the dates and times and the other measurements. See the big pictures, avoid getting lost in detail. So nothing is not required, means a deep detail is not required in writing task 1. So what exactly you need to write, what is stated in that. So after all this is summarizing task, further you will learn confident. Like when you are confident, you have selected the main features and carry on to step 2. So what is the step 2? Let's come. Step 2 is the organize your findings into two groups. Organizing your findings into two groups. So that is your task. So when you are like organizing the information into the separate groups, focus on these topics, right? So the topics are the major trend, major group, exceptions, group informations, and other similar ideas. So I'm repeating it once again for you. So you need to describe major trends, major groups, exceptions, group information, and other similar ideas. Very good one, just wait for. Okay. So the next step is structure everything into the four paragraphs model. You need to structure everything in the four paragraphs model. So write one sentence explaining what the graph shows. You can paraphrase the title. I think guys you are getting problem with the voice. I think so. So please check. Respond me back. There is a problem in the might be, or like if the structures. So please check it once again and then tell, then I'd continue. I think guys you are getting problem with the voice. I think so. So please check. Respond me back. There is a problem in the might be, or like if the structures. So please check it once again and then tell, then I'll continue. Properly now. So now let's see like the structure three and structure everything into the four paragraph model. So write one sentence explaining what graph shows and what you can paraphrase the title. So let's look at the example is there the pie chart title. The pie chart title is holiday destinations chosen by world's people in 19 between 1995 and 2005. So the first sentence is the pie chart shows the vacation preferences of over 50 years period starting in 1995 and finishing in 2005. So this is right for your paragraph 1. So for the paragraph 2, talk about the information that you have separated in step 2, focus on the step groups actually. And in the paragraph 3, talk about the information that you have separated in step 2, focus on the second group. Means once you are writing the second you need first you need to sorry second paragraph, so you need to write focus on the first paragraph information, and when you are writing the third one, so you need to focus on the second one, and when you will focus on the fourth one, so then you need to focus on the paragraph number third, or means the information which is separated there. Now let's look at tips for interpreting a pie chart in IELTS. So you just need to focus on that. So let's see, please. So if you cannot compare the information of your pie chart, don't be panic, right? So if you are unable to like compare the information in a well way, so then kindly don't be panic about it. So in such a case, giving a summary of each picture is fine. If you are unable to make comparison, so it is better for you if you can give summary of each slice or each picture. Make comparison where relevant, means wherever you can make a comparison you must try to make a good comparison in that. Avoid giving personal opinion at all costs. You must avoid giving your personal opinion in writing task 1. If the graph shows rising prices and you know it's because of war in Middle East, do not say anything. So kindly do not add any personal idea from your side in the writing task 1. If it is pie chart, line graph, bar graph, or whatever the graph you are having in your exam, so kindly do not add your personal idea. Always pay attention to the time frame of your pie chart and use the appropriate tenses. Means you need to focus on the past, present and the future. So you need to focus on every sort of information. Kindly do not focus on the other informations. So if you are unable to make a good comparison, so if you are unable to make a comparison between the things, so then there is no any problem. You can simply start it by giving summary of each picture is very fine. Next important point that you need to keep in your mind is giving, means avoid giving your personal opinion at all costs. And what is the third thing you need to keep in your mind? Always pay attention to time frame of your like pie chart and use the appropriate tenses. If it is given, data is given in the past, present, go with the present. And if it is, you need to focus on every appropriate data whatever is stated there. So that's the most important key factor that you need to keep in your mind. Shashikant, thank you so much for giving your compliments, my dear. So now let's look at the pie chart vocabulary for IELTS, right? So what is the pie chart vocabulary? So this word is actually, it is like, it is clear that after you would talk about the graph, it is clear that XYZ represents the largest portion of XYZ, whereas the second side is undoubtedly the smallest. You can make a comparison something like this. Further is the sales of, let's take an example, the sales of bottles or the plastic stood at, let's take an example, 10% in 1995, which is the majority of. Further is, if the percentage is around 60%, you can talk about nearly a third. I will explain you how you would count this. If it is 60%, how you would count it is 60 per nearly a third, or if it is something more than that, so how you will make a comparison. So I'd explain you everything in details. Further is there, the percentage is around 52%. So what you can write, over a half of all respondents. So you can write it there in that. Further is, here are the few examples of good words for the smallest section of your pie chart. If the small sections are given in the pie chart, you can write it something like this. So further is a small fraction you can talk about, exactly 30% of student. If the percentage is around 25%, so you can talk about roughly a quarter of respondent. If it is given 25%, you will talk about roughly a quarter of respondent. Whereas the sales of, let's talk an example, XYZ, were just 10%. In 1995, approximately three quarters were, you can talk about like 10%. Whereas in 1960, this had fallen just to under a fifth. Further is there, written forms, percentage and the fractions are there. So you can talk about like a half if it is given a 50%, a third if it is 33%, 63%, and three quarters if it is 75%, a quarter if it is 25%. Further you can talk about, if it is 60%, so you can write two third, three quarters you can write three fourth, and if it is a one quarter, so you can talk about one fourth. Further, now let's look at the main pie chart, right? So the main pie chart is over here. So main reasons for migration from the UK in 2007. We will explain how this graph is formed. So now let's look at further over here. First of all, first is formal study, then definite jobs, then like applying or like sorry company or join, or no reason stated. So in the yellow it is given for looking for work, and the color, so that's you can talk about the other categories there. So now let's see how we can begin with this graph first. So the first is there, the pie chart illustrate the pie chart. So let's take a thing first in your mind. These are the two pie charts, so that's why we have stated the pie charts illustrate. So if it could be the one pie chart, we could have written it something like this, the pie chart illustrate. So S could be required over here if it could be single. Now these are the two charts, so you will talk about the pie charts illustrate. The primary reason that people came to UK and left, means the people who came to UK and left, that is the migration to, means the people who came, and from the UK means the people who left. People came means migration to, means came in the UK, those who came in the UK, and from the UK means those who left the UK in 2007. At first glance, right, it is clear that the main factor influencing this decision was employment. So the first reason was of employment. So having a definite job accounted for 30% of migration to the UK. So you will talk about, this is the 30% job migration to the UK. Further you will talk about like and figure was similar just to the like immigration at 29%. Further it is like about 29% about the immigration. So that's over here, it's the immigration and that's the migration. So we are comparing both the information. A large number of people, so what does it mean, a large number of people means 22% people also immigrated. So 22% people also immigrated. These are the 22% people also immigrated because they were looking for a job. Though the proportion of people entering in the UK for this purpose was noticeably lower, as at lower less than a fifth. It is less than a fifth, so it is not noticeably lower than that. So another major factor influencing a movie. So another major factor which is influencing to it is the movie. So that like UK was the formal study, so like with over a quarter of people migrating for this reason. However, interestingly, only a small majority means a very small number of people, that is only the 4%. So this is the 4% over here. So only a small people, 4% left for this. The proportions means the number of those who moving to join family members were just quite similar, means were just quite similar for immigration and emigration, right? For immigration and emigration, those people who moved from the UK and who came in the UK was 15% and 13% respectively. Although a significant number of people means 32% of people. So who are the 32% of people? So a significant number of people gave other reasons. So significant number of people gave other reasons for what? Did not give a reason why they immigrated, and this accounted for only 70% with the regards of information, right? So this is how you will structure your pie chart. In further clip, choose the most important points to write about first. So first of all, you need to choose the most important points to write about the first. Second is, these will be the largest one, these will be the largest one. If you are writing something first, so you need to talk about the largest one. As you can see in the model answer, definite jobs, looking for work, and the formal study were written all about first. In order of importance, all these are the main reasons that they are chosen for moving. Items such as others are usually less important and accounted a small amount, so it can be left till the end. Further is there, what you need to do to make it read easy. So you need to make it easy to read for the other people. So now let's see, when you write a task 1, you should always group information in a logical way to make it easy to follow and read. So it is necessary for you, when you write the task 1, you should always make a group information, as we made the group information of emigrations and the people who immigrated. So we made the group of these two categories. So that is called group information in a logical way to make it easy and to follow and read. So what is the logical way? So let's take an example. These are the two sides, this is one side and this is another side. If in this side we are having these two sides, so this is 30%, let's take an example, and this is 32%. So this is ABC category and this is CDE category. So we can make a comparison of ABC with the CDE, right? So that's the comparison you can make between these two things, because the numbers are quite similar. So that is the way of making a logical, you can talk about the information that you will represent. So write an IELTS pie chart. The most logical thing to do is usually to compare categories together. Means what is the first and most important thing? You need to compare the categories, focusing on similarities. You need to see what percentages are similar to each other and what are quite different to each other. So you need to look out these information. Means across the graph, what you need to find, like focusing on similarities and differences rather than writing about each chart separately. If you would write each chart separately, then obviously you would lose marks in that. So if you write about each one, like if you write about one separately, if you write about each one separately, the person reading it will have to keep looking between the paragraphs in order to see how each has been performed. So it is advised you to write a group information, means focusing on similarities, and you need to write about the major differences as well. Further is, it is important to keep in your mind, it is important to keep in your mind, you should not keep repeating the same structures. Finally, do not repeat the same structures. The key language when you write about pie chart is proportions and percentages, right? So you need to focus on the two things like proportions and the percentages. So kindly do not repeat the same structure. Common phrases to see the proportion of or the percentage of, you need to use the common phrases for it. Further, however, you can also use other words and fractions. If you are able to use the other words and the fractions, you can still write it. So these are some examples from the model answers. So as you have studied that model answers, the model answer we have studied there, a large number of people. Let's take an example, means like 40% is the maximum number. 40% is the maximum number. So we can write a large number of people. Over a quarter of people means it, if it is around like 28%, so you can talk about over a quarter of people. A small minority, if it is like 5% or 6%, so you can talk about a minor small minority. A significant number of people means the number which cannot be ignored, like 20%, 20 like 5%, 22%. So you can write a significant number of people, so less than a fifth you can talk about over there. Further is, now this table presents some examples of how you can change percentages to fractions or ratio. So firstly, it is very necessary for you to understand how to change the numbers into the fractions and the number like fractions or the ratios. Like let's take an example, if it is 80%, so you can write, if it is 80%, you can write 4/5, 75% 3/4, 70% 7 in 10, 65% 2/3, 60% 2/5, 55% more than half, 50% it's just half, 45% more than 2/5, 40% 2/5, so 35% more than a third, 30% less than a third, 25% a quarter, 20% a fifth, 15% less than a fifth, 10% 1 in 10, and 5% is 1 in 20. This is how you would make percentage fraction from the percentage. I'm repeating once again for your reference. So like if it is 80%, you will say 4/5, 75% 3/4, 70% 7 in 10, 65% you can talk about like 2/3, 60% 3/5, 55% more than half, 50% half, 45% more than 2/5, 40% 2/5, 35% more than a third, 30% less than a third, 25% a quarter, 20% a fifth, 15% less than a fifth, 10% less like 1 in 10, and 5% 1 in 20. This is how you will form it. Now let's look at the further is there. If the percentage are not exact as above, if the percentage are not exact as above, then you can use qualifiers. There are the two things, right, dear all. So one is the fraction, second percentage, and the third is qualifier. So if the percentage is there, means you can make it is it in the proportion, number, amount, or in the majority or minority. So you can make it something like this. So if it is 75% to 85%, you can talk about a very large majority. If it is 65% to 75%, you can talk about a significant proportion. If it is 10 to 15%, you can write a minority. If it is 5%, so you can write a very small numbers. Sorry for the problem that I caused you. I just flipped my laptop. The percentage and fractions. Yes, Manpreet. What do you want to know about the fractions and the percentage? Can you tell, please? So I'd keep you sending this in the group as well. Don't worry. So now let's look at the percentage over here. So and the proportion, numbers, amount, and the majority and the minority. So this is a very large proportion, a significant proportion, a very smaller number of people you can talk about there. So I think something went wrong with this. So I just need to just keep the changes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just need to begin it once again. Yeah, we were here actually. Yeah, I will send this speak in the group as well. Don't worry. So now let's look at if this is present some examples so how you can change the percentage into the numbers. So if it is 10 to 15%, so you can write it a minority. If it is 5%, a very small number. So kindly do not write. So let's take an example. If the numbers are given, so if you would repeat the given numbers in the pie chart, so obviously there would be quite a less chances that the examiner would mark good band score for you. So if you would like to get good band score, so I would strongly advise you to use different variations of vocabulary and different sorts of vocabulary for getting good band score. So therefore I advise you to do this activity. So now let's take an example and look again once again. So in IELTS writing task 1, as you know, you have the 20 minutes to write it, and the pie chart shows the amount of money. I'll be discussing the number of more pie charts for your understanding. So the pie chart shows the amount of money that a children's charity located in the USA spent and received. Spent means like they can talk about expenditure, and received means revenue, right? It is written over here. Expenditure, dear, we say to the thing we have spent, and revenue is whatever we get from the outsources, so that is called revenue. So summarizes the information and select the main feature and make a comparison where relevant. So you need to keep in your mind, so 150 words are required. So if you would look out these categories, so the maximum revenue was from donated food and the expenditure was in the programs. So you can talk about the rest is the community contribution 10%. You can talk about further is 22% for the program revenue and 2%. So like government income and the government grants are quite similar, so other income was just like 0.4%. And in the fundraising was like just 2.6%, and the management and general expenditure was 1.6%. So further you need to keep this data also in your mind. So that's the 5 crore 35 lakh 6,100. Uh, no, actually I'm wrong over here. So it's 53 crore 56 lakh 1,580. So that's the 53 crore 20 like 53 crore 22 lakh 400 sorry 4,896. So now let's look at how we have managed this data. Although this figure is not required, this is the total. Actually, this is the total of revenue and this is the total of expenditure. So this you would not write over there in the graph. So if you are willing to write, so you can write it at the last sentence for your betterment, but do not add this figure at the beginning of your pie chart. So I would advise you, kindly do not write this in the beginning. So let's talk about see first the pie charts show. The pie charts show the amount of revenue and expenditure. The amount of revenue and expenditure is means the amount that is spent and the amount they got from the other sources in 2016 for children in charity in the USA. So in detail, donated food provided most of the revenue. So most of the revenue, why we have said, because that is the maximum actually. So most of the revenue at 86%. Similarly means like, which is quite approximately same to the next figure, so that is called similarly. So similarly, with the regard to expenditure, means with the regard to the expenditure, one category, program service, right? So this is the program service, so accounted for nearly all of outgoings at 95.8%. So this is 95.8%. The other categories were much smaller. So the other categories, so what are the other categories? So these are the other categories actually. So if you would look out these other categories, these are quite smaller as compared to donated food. And if you would compare the expenditure, fundraising and the management and journal with the program services, so then again it is a smaller number. So their categories were much smaller. Community contribution, which were the second largest revenue, community contribution, which is the second largest revenue source. Why it is the second largest? Because after like 86.6%, this is the second largest, 10.4%. So brought in 10.4% of overall income, and this was followed by the program revenue. So if you would talk about the program revenue, so that is the 2.2%. Investment income, government grants and other incomes were very small means these were the very small. These are the 0.2%, 2% and 4%. So like sources of revenue accounting only for 0.8% combined. So why it is 0.8% to 0.2%? 0.2% is 0.4% and this is 4%. So 0.4% is 0.8%. So that's why we have written 0.8% rather than writing it in the separate paragraphs. Because if you would write every information in separate paragraph, your word limit would be exceeded, so you would not be given good marks. So kindly avoid this sort of things. So there were only there were only the two other expenditures. So there were only the two other expenditure items, like fundraising and management and journal accounting for 2.6%. This is 2.6% and 1.6%. So this is 1.6% respectively. So the total amount of income was, so this is the total income, and which was just enough to cover, the expenditure of 53224896. So because this is the highest one, means they got more revenue and they have less expenses, so it is easy for them to manage their expenditure. So overall it can be seen that donated food accounted for the majority of income. So why it is majority of the income? Because it is 86%, 86.6%. That's why we have written it the majority of income. Let's take an example. Instead of the majority of income, if we would write 86.6%, so then it would not be a justified summary of your task 1. So it is advised you, kindly do not add numbers in the summary. You can write fractions, or instead of fractions, if you would avoid writing fractions, so still you can write about the total proportions, right? So that you can write. And another is there while. So program service accounted for the most expenditure. So what is the program service accounted for the most expenditure? Because program service is 95.8%, this is the most expenditure. The total revenue services just exceeded outstanding. So total revenue just exceeded outstanding. This is a way that you can present your information in well manner. Anil, sir, helpful information of sentences. I will use this structure in my exam as well. Thank you so much. Most welcome, Anil. Thank you so much for giving your valuable feedback, my dear friend. So now let's look at the further chart. So I got many chart for you to describe today and for your reference. So this is the pie chart. So first read this information. The pie chart below illustrate the number of journal articles read per week by all students, PhD students and junior lecturers at Australian University. This is information that you will see in every type of graph, either it is pie chart, line graph, bar graph, or whatever the graph is there. So you would get this piece of information everywhere. So summarizes the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make a comparison where relevant. Manpreet Danjan, thank you so much, my dear. So number of journal articles read by the student. So number of journal articles read by the PhD students, number of journal articles read by the junior student. So now let's look at the journal, like the journal articles read by all student. So the maximum is, you can talk about, the slices are over here. So this is for like 0 to 1 1, and this is yellow is for 6 to 11, and 12 plus is the green one. So 67% is 1 to 5, and 6 to 11% is 21, and that is the 12%, 12 plus you can talk about. So the number over here is the, for the 12 plus category is 80%, and the 0 6 to 11 is 15%, another 1 to 5 is 5%. Further 75% is the least one is your that is the 1 to 5, and further is 12 plus is 25 4%. So first what you will do, you will state this figure, you can make comparison of these two, and then you can talk about, in one paragraph you can describe it, or if you can write it something like this, means you need to go with some circle like this, you need to make a circle something like this, means you need to move subject to the cycle as we write the cycle something. So you can still write it, means first you will describe this one, then you will describe this one, and then you will describe this one, right? This is the third step. So now let's look at the three pie charts. The three pie chart illustrate how many articles from academic journals. So Surinder Singh, thank you. Very good morning, my dear. So three pie chart illustrate how many articles from academic journal are read weekly by PhD students and junior lecturers compared to, means compared to the students at an Australian university. So over the willing willing majority, means the highest majority of those studying doctorates, means PhD, who are doing PhD doctorate, at least the 12 articles per weak in the comparison with the average student. So the figure were 80% and 12% respectively. So this is the 80% and 12% respectively. So first we have stated, because 80%, this is the highest one and this is the smallest one. So first we made the pair of this one. Furthermore, only 5% of PhD level student read between 1 and 5 article. So only you can talk about 5%. So this is the 5% you can talk about. So only the 5% PhD student between the 1 and 5 article, where the average, whereas the average for all the student in this category is hefty 67%. So this is the 67%. Meanwhile, for junior lecturers, the pattern appears to be slightly different. Means meanwhile, the junior, for the junior lecturers, the pattern appears to be slightly different. Most read one more 6 article per week, means 99%, but out of this total 24% read 12 or more. Guys, 12 or more, 5 and more, you need to focus over here if you want to understand it better. So you need to focus over here. if someone is not getting it, so you need to just focus over here. So further is there, which is almost a third of corresponding figure for the PhD level student. So this is the final introduction. It is clear that those students who are researching for the PhD read more articles than either junior lectures to other students. So if you would compare this article with this figure with the other students and with the junior lecturers, so they are so they read the more articles as compared to the other figures. Further is there, in the further chart we'll talk about reasons for cycling to work. So reason for cycling to work, guys, in the reasons to cycling for work, so kindly do not add your ideas. For an example, health and fitness. So health and fitness is there, so you can write something like this: people ride more bicycle just to keep themselves healthy, this is why they prefer the bicycle. Although you can write for maintaining their metabolism or maintaining their health system, they prefer bicycle the most, we can write this. But if you would write as bicycle keeps them active and agile or keep them healthy, so this is why it saved their cycling is a good exercise, and that saved their life, so this is why they preferred this. So kindly do not add this kind of information in the pie chart. So the pie chart below shows the reasons why people travel to work by bicycle or by car. So you can see over here, so health and fitness. So second is less pollution, no parking problem, no cost, and the faster than driving. Further is for the comfort, right? So then next is the distance walk, so you would move something like this, right? So next is there faster than cycle, need to carry things to work, and safer than cycling. So this is the information that you will write over here. So now let's look at how it has been formed, how we have written this graph for you. So instead of writing this one, so normally for the introduction we write something like this: the given pie chart shows, right? So instead of this you can also change this pattern as well. So what you can write instead of this: the first chart shows the reasons why some people in UK prefer cycling to work. So prefer cycling to work is the first reason. Conversely means on the other hand, right? So second chart gives reason those who choose to work by car. So this is driving to reasons for driving to work. So that are this is the another way you can form your introduction, and it is always important for you to make some good changes while you do all these kind of things there. So further now let's look at the highest percentage is of cycling. The highest percentage is of cycling, so that is 30%. So this is the highest percentage. The same amount of people, 30%, they say that cycle to work because it causes less pollution. Dear, we can just write it, so because it causes less pollution, so this number is quite same for the people who preferred health and fitness. So then the next is there, causes less pollution, so that's you will write over there. And further is, and the further is there, you will talk about something like this: 13% of people cycle to work because it is cheaper than driving. So 13%, so people prefer, so that is driving. So like surprisingly a similar amount of people said that, so they cycle to work because it is faster than traveling by car. It is faster than traveling by car, so that is the another reason. In contrast to this, the percentage who prefer to travel walk by car because it is more comfortable, that is 40%. It's over here 40%. The two least important reasons, the two least means what are the other reasons? So first is the more comfortable, then which is the another reason is called least. Means if something is it's 40%, for the 40% you have written it is more comfortable. This is a phrase. And if it is the two least important, so what are the two least? So this is right. So you can talk about these are the another two one over here. 14% and 11% respectively. So this is people need to cycle things. And finally 16% say they prefer driving because it is faster than cycling. So 16% like prefer it is faster than. The contrast with the cyclist who ride work because it is faster than driving. So you need to make a comparison of all. It seems that the majority of people who cycle to work do this for health and environmental reasons. By contrast, those who travel by car want to have more comfortable journey over longer distances. So this is the 40% for the longer distances, means they ride for comfort, and people over here is they prefer majority, so they prefer like for health and less pollution, means for the environmental reasons. So this is the another way you can present your graph. Further is there what makes people most happy. So the chart below shows the results of survey about people of different age group say makes them most happy. So you know we have the two categories, people under 30 and people over 30. People under 30 and people over 30. So let's identify what is the highest percentage. What means what makes people more happy who are under 30. So 31% of people achievement at work, so that makes them happy. It is followed by doing hobbies, then having, if I'm not wrong, yes, I'm going right. So having a good appearance, then traveling, and the list is for least are happy for the other factors. So now let's see people who are over 30. So who are over 30? So surprisingly, it is also very famous in the people with the over 30. So they are more happiest with their achievement at work. And again it is followed by financial security 20%, sorry, doing hobbies is the second popular as under the 31. So next is the financial security, that is the 20%. So further is, but just remember people having a good appearance is not mentioned, this is not a category, because they have it having a good appearance with 18% is replaced with the financial security. So you have to keep this in your mind. And the list is for the 10% is for the other factors. So now let's look at what makes people more happy. There are several similarities between younger and older people say makes them happy, most happy, means there are several similarities between what younger and older people say make them happy, most happy, sorry. However, there are several striking differences, means there are several similarities and several striking differences are there. So in introduction we have not stated any major changes, so we have just like specified, or you can talk about, we have just given one detail that there are several similarities and several strike differences are there. So we are just talking about all those. Firstly, let's look at the similarities. First we will talk about the similarities. Actually, it is noticeable that for both younger and older people, the highest percentage says that achievement at work brings them most happiness, 31% for the younger age group and 32% for the older age group. So this is the first reason that makes them happy, right? This is 31% and 32%. So this is the similarity actually. So the biggest or the highest similarity we can talk about. So second largest, this is the first one, first similarity. The second largest, I forgot to highlight it, sorry. The second largest percentage of both age group mentioned hobbies as makes them most happy. So this is their second activity that they really love to do. Turning now to the differences, now we will talk about the differences. Turning now to the differences, many younger people regard having a good appearance as extremely important as 18%. So this is 18% of them state this brings them most happiness. This is followed by 15% that travel bring them happiness. So this is the 15%. Next is there neither of those two factor is mentioned by older people. So what are the two factors that is not mentioned by the older people? So like having financial. So instead 20% of older people report that having financial security is most important to their happiness. So this is a financial security, 20% is important for their happiness, and 14%, this is the 14% say they feel most happy when they are with their family, right? So sorry, this is the 14% for the others, and 14% for the like they feel happy when they are with their family. So this is why this is what you will write for your graph. So comparison something like this. Further is now let's talk about the starting, presenting type and the verb and description. So you can write something like this or the given diagram or the table. So you can choose any category. So let's take an example. So if you are writing, if you have taken the given, right? So you will write the given. So if you are writing about table, the given table, you can talk about the word you have taken represent. Represents, then you can talk about the comparison, or you can talk about the proportion, you can talk about the information changes, differences, whatever. Means this is the starting, this is presenting the type. So you are writing about table, figure, illustrate, chart, picture, pie chart, column, table chart, data, information. So you just need to go with this information. Further you can use these verbs like depicts or enumerates. So enumerates like is the another good word that you can use for that, or the like delineates is the another good word that you can talk about, or expresses is the another uncommon word. So kindly use avoiding common word. So if you would use the common word, so again the common word would create problem for lowering your score. So I would suggest you to use some uncommon word to score more better. So the uncommon word what can be? So now let's take the another look. So you can write something like this. I'll just make a line over here. So you can write something like this. The given, you can talk about if it is any data or anything, or let's take an example, the given table, right? So the given table, that's enumerates the comparative data of XYZ. You can make your sentences something like this, right? So guys, as you are pretty sure and we are sure about as well, in IELTS task 1 you will get only one graph to write. So you can make one simple line for writing bar, line, table, and except the bar picture graph you can make a one separate line, and for the diagram you need a line or process diagram or map, so you can change it. So if it is comparison or something is given, so you would make sentence subject to that, or because the number and percentages are not shown in the picture, so normally we see comparisons in the picture, means with the older site and with the newer site. So you need to make some sentences for your preferences from this category. Further is there, so the diagram I'm giving you the some examples, right? So examples are over here. I have especially written some of the words for your reference, my dear friends. So now let's look at over here. Surinder, thank you so much for your appreciation, my dear friend. So, the diagram shows the employment rates among. So, the diagram shows the employment rate. Sorry, the diagram shows the employment rates amongst the eldest in four European countries from 1925 to 1985. The given pie chart represents the proportion of male and female employees in six broad categories, dividing into manual and non-manual occupations in Australia between 2010 and 15. The chart gives information about the consumer expenditure on six products for in four countries, namely Germany, Italy, Britain, France. Right. So further is there the supplied bar chart. Compare the number of males and female graduates in developing countries, while the table presents the overall literacy rate in these countries. The bar chart graph and the table depicts the water consumption in different sectors in five religion. So the bar graph enumerates the money spent on different research projects, while the common chart demonstrates the fund sources over a decade commencing from 1981. Further is there the line graph like delineates the proportion of males and females employees in three different sectors in Australia between 2010 and 15. Note that some teachers prefer the line graph demonstrate format instead of the given line graph demonstrate. However, if you write the given or provided or presented, it would be correct as. So this is a better if you would write the given. So this is I would advise you can talk about the given line graph demonstrate. So this is a advice to you to write it to score more better. Now let's talk about some journal statement is the first sentence, and to write in your reporting it should always deal with what, where and when. It is important, one of the most important point of your your pie chart. So examples are there. The diagram presents information in the percentage of teachers. The diagram presents information. The diagram presents information on the percentage of the teachers who, the percentage and the teachers who express their views about the different problems they face when dealing with children in Australia, with three Australian schools from 2001 to 2005. So now let's look at, so what is for use for the percentage of teachers, where means the Australian schools in schools, and when is the 2001 and 2005. So a good journal statement should always have these parts, so it is necessary for you to include all these parts in that. So further I talk about all by using all these things. So as is represented in the diagram or shows the chart, so like as it is illustration, so as it can be seen. So this is the another category that you can write for describing graph. So the diagram suggests according to categories speaking. So getting back to the detail, so if you are going something back in your graph, you can write getting back to the detail. Now turning to the detail, if you are turning to the next one, table data clearly shows, if you are writing some like crystal clear things. The diagram revels means it represents, it suggests that the diagram gives the figure. It is interesting to note that. So sorry, what is being wrong with you, man? Oh. So then the next is, it is like apparently seen that it is conspicuous that, so like it is obvious, so then it is clear from the data, so it's worth noticing, so it can be clearly observed, so further it can be notices that, right? So these are the 23 categories that you can write for describing different items for different charts. Further is the trends for increase. These are for the increase, decrease. So this is increase, decrease. So like steady, if it is increasing, something like means slow is the gradual, something like this, right? So gradual decrease is something like this. If it is increasing with the gradual means this is the gradual increase. So if it is decreasing, so this is a gradual decrease. So and like it is the stability or the flat or means leveled off. You can write the word form for increase is the increase, rise, go up, lift. So I think you all are aware about all these words. So still I have just discussed these words with you for your reference. So guys, without taking your lot of time, you have to study all this by your own, but I have made their separate categories so you would not get confusion in it. So still if you would get confusion in this, you can make me WhatsApp on this number. I will help you for writing. So that's all about the pie charts, and please watch my next video. In next video I will include talk about bar, line and picture. Tomorrow I'll be talking about these three one, and in the next after once we would finish with this, like as this is our day 6 for that, and tomorrow would be the day 7 for all these category. Today we are on the day 6, and from day 8 I would be talking about writing task 2. So if you have not subscribed my channel, so please subscribe it and comment, like and share with other students, and please feel free to share your feedback with me. I would be very happy to serve all of you. And thank you so much for watching IELTS Doctor. You people can give your feedback to me. So thanks a lot all of you. So you people can give your feedback to me, so please share your feedback with me. So your feedback always motivates us to do something more good for you people, and it also gives us some unique things to learn from all of you. So that's why I would strongly say you please share your feedback. Thank you so much for watching IELTS Doctor. Thanks a million. Thanks Mandeep Danyan. Thanks Manoj, my dear bro.